Hey, Pin Dude here. Welcome back to My Vintage Pinball. This episode is going to be Stingray, 1977 Stern Stingray, Pinball Restoration, part number 1. Now, if you didn't see the episode of when I picked up this game, check it out. It was back in May, and I did an episode of unloading it from the car. I picked it up at Allentown, and I set it up, and I went through the game a little bit, but I didn't go through the game all that well. My main goal on that day was to get the game set up in the game room, so it was out of the way while I was working on roller games. The point of part number 1 of Stern Stingray is to get this game electronically working and get the game up and running. The play field for roller games is right behind me under this towel. That's going to be going out into the garage this week, and we'll be filming episode 7 on roller games. But there's going to be some downtime with the play field while we're doing waiting for clear coat to cure, waiting for paint to dry, probably waiting for parts, which always seems to happen. So in that downtime, I would like to work on some of the electronics of this game so that we can get this game up and running and have a functioning game. And then once Roller Games Playfield's done, we'll be tearing this game completely apart and doing the restore on this game. So for now, I'm going to open up the game, go over a quick review of what we're starting with on this Stern Stingray project, and look at the electronics, because I did not look at them very well when I bought the game. The game was bought, the owner that I bought it from said the game worked. I did not ever plug it in. I've never plugged it in. I've never powered it on. And I'll show you why when we get into the back box. So let's open this game up and take a look at it. All right, so the playfield was kind of polished and waxed by the previous owner, and he put new rubbers on it. And then I tinkered with a couple problems under the playfield just to get everything kind of operational, or hopefully operational. We won't know until we power up the game. So let's go under the hood here. All right, so we're inside the cabinet. Now this is a Stern MPU 100 game, essentially a direct copy of Bally-17, early Bally, starting in 1977, Stern 77, system pretty much the same. So what we're doing here is a no soundboard game. It's got a chime unit, so there's no soundboard to deal with here. And in the cabinet, we don't have much. We have a line fuse, we have the line coming into the line filter, and that's it. Tilt bob, but nothing really too much in the cabinet we have to worry about. What we do want to do is check the resistance of these coils. Put your voltmeter on ohms, make sure none of these coils are shorted. I already did that when I checked out the game, and all the coils were fine. I don't think I checked the, I think I forgot to check the chime coils here. There's 4 coils here for the 4 chime units. I do have to check those. But you want to make sure none of these are shorted, anything below probably an ohm, because if they are, when you power up the game, you'll burn out a transistor and do damage to your circuit board. Other than that, of course, the power cord you want to make sure is in good shape. And in the cabinet, it looks good. Let me see if I can get to the actual plug end. And the actual plug end, in one of my previous episodes, I said 9 out of 10 times the ground prong's missing. Well, this one has a ground prong. Somebody wired in a new plug. So we'll go with this line cord for now. I will put a new one on when we do the full restoration on the game. But for now, this will be fine for testing. So other than checking the coils and fixing anything that's obviously broken under here, we're not going to worry too much under the cabinet at this time. But right now we want to go inside the head and take a look at what's going on in there. All right, so let's open up the back box here. We want to be careful with the back glass here. Back glass isn't perfect, but it's not bad. The previous owner sealed this with automotive clear coat, but the reds are all flaking, so we'll deal with that later. But it actually looks pretty good. Of course, I don't know what it looks. I don't know what it looks like lit up yet, but All right, so with the back glass off, we get our first look at the actual glass displays, and it's not all good news. So let's look over here, player 4. A lot of burn marks, not horrendous. Over here, this display's got a lot of burn. This display, this one doesn't look too bad. This one doesn't look, well, there's 2 big burn marks right there. And this one looks good except for the first digit. So they don't look great. At the minimum, we're going to change the 100K resistors on the board for the display, and we'll either reflow or replace the 0.156 header pins on the display board. And then once we power it up, we'll assess what the glass looks like and make a decision on what we're going to have to do at that point. All right, so we're inside the back box. Once again, this is a Stern MPU 100 system. Basically the same as a Bally-17. So the transformers right here, the line cord is, the power is coming from the line cord through the line filter, through the line fuse, and then that's power in the transformer, which is sending all the different AC voltage that we need to this board that's mounted on the side. Here, I'll try to get a closer up of this in a little bit. This is called the rectifier board. This board takes the AC voltage, converts it to DC, and sends the different DC voltages out to the various boards that need it. Now this board's usually pretty crispy, this rectifier board. This one's actually not bad, but we need to either rebuild it or go with a different board. These can be rebuilt, but cost-effective wise, there may be better options. All right, so here's a close-up of the rectifier board. It's actually in fairly decent shape, and it is the correct Stern 100 rectifier board. So I'd like to reuse it, but we are going to rebuild the whole rectifier board. So I'm going to order all the parts I need to rebuild that rectifier board. The other option is to go with the get the blank Weebly board and rebuild that. But I think I'm going to try to rebuild this one, but we'll see after I put the parts order together. We also are going to change all those connector pins and new housings on the Molex connector. They're actually not too burnt up on this game like they are on a lot of games, but we obviously want to repin the whole game. If you don't repin the whole game, you could have various intermittent problems down the road. So although it's time consuming, it is best to repin the whole game. So now we move on to this board here. This board here is called the solenoid driver board. This is got a 5-volt section. It's got a high voltage section for the displays, which is why this shield's on here. Of course, it's broken. So this board, as you see, I'll zoom in on it a little bit. This is actually a Bally board for a Bally-17 system. But that's fine. They're completely compatible, and I have no problem having a Bally board. So we'll bulletproof this board. I see nothing wrong with this board other than, you know, the capacitors are old, the connectors need to be redone, and the header pins need to be redone. So here's the solenoid driver board. You see this is a Bally solenoid driver board here, but that's fine. I'm not going for completely all original here. The main goal is I want a very, very reliable game, and this board appears to be in good shape. With some new capacitors and some other things, we should be in good shape. These boards use a smaller fuse right here for the high voltage, and somebody decided I'll just jam a long regular 3AG fuse in here and bend the clips out and stuff. So we need to deal with that. And we need to check all these transistors down here to make sure none are shorted. And we need to repin the 0.156 connectors and repin the 0.100 connectors on the board. This is the CPU board. This is not a factory CPU board. This is an Altec board. When I bought the game, I guess the previous owner put this in there to get the game running to sell it as a working game. So that is an Altec board. That is not the board I'm going to be using. That board's coming out. I'll either sell it or I'll keep it as a backup spare test board. But that is the Alltech board. These run about $200 new. This board is brand new, but obviously I'd have to sell it used. And this, below that, is the lamp driver board. This is the board that controls all the CPU-controlled lamps on the playfield. Now, the issues start already. There's a reason there's an Alltech board in this, and that's because the original board has a battery on it, and that battery leaks. And it leaks, and it makes a mess of corrosion on the CPU board. So that's why that CPU board's not here anymore. Now, how do I know that that's the issue? Well, the lamp driver board is completely covered in corrosion. I can try to fix it. I can depopulate the whole board, clean off all the corrosion, sand it down, seal it, and all that, and repopulate the whole board. All right, here's a close-up of the lamp driver board in my game. And if I get real close here and get this to focus, you will see all kinds of green funk on all these transistors, on all the smaller transistors, especially down here. On these hex buffer chips here, there's a lot of corrosion, and there's even what appears to be some corrosion over towards these larger chips, and definitely on these resistor banks here. So I could repopulate this whole board. Oh, and also down here, look at the ground plane here. It's just flaking off. The corrosion's so bad. Once again, that's from the battery on the MPU board, dripping all its alkaline down on this board, which causes all the traces to corrode. And of course, all these pins are corroded because the corrosion has gotten on these header pins, and it's corroded the pins in here. That's obviously why this rat's nest of a connector is here. So we want this game to be as reliable as we can get. And here's the backside of one of the display boards. The most common problems on these is cracked solder joints on the header pins, which causes intermittent display issues. The other is the 100K resistors on the board go open or short and cause the segment problems. And then the third problem is the actual drive transistors will make a segment not light or other issues. So we'll need to check all that. At the minimum, we're going to change the 100K resistors. I believe there's 6 or 7 on the board. And then either reflow or replace the 156 header pins. And then we'll deal with the glass displays once we get them lit up and see what they look like. Now, the Alltech board's coming out of this game. And I bought this a while ago. Inside this box is an MPU 100 board that had alkaline battery damage and was repaired. And I got this for $41 on eBay, shipped. So that was quite a bargain. I haven't opened it yet. And here's the other reason that I didn't want to power up the game, besides all the corrosion on this lamp driver board, which is really bad. One of the connectors on the lamp driver board is this rat's nest here. Instead of taking the wires here and crimping on new terminals and putting in a new housing, they used whatever the heck this is. I'm not sure what this mess is, but I didn't want to power up the game without fixing that properly. The MPU board that I have has already been bulletproofed. The only thing I needed to order there was 2716 ROM chips to burn my own ROMs. I got them off eBay from China for like $7 for 10 chips. Hopefully they work. And that's what we're going to do in here. So right now, I am going to start working on this order. And I will come back after I get that order kind of done and we'll review. All right, so I ended up getting all the electronic parts ordered that I needed. And as always, I get my electronic pinball parts from Great Plains Electronics. That's greatplainselectronics.com. If you've never checked out his site, definitely check it out. It's very well laid out, and he has pretty much every electrical pinball part that you could possibly ever need for your pinball machine. I've been getting my electrical parts from him since I got into pinball, and he's a great asset to the pinball community. So I did that order, and I ordered a lot of stuff. Here's the list of parts that I got. Now, not everything I ordered here is for this particular, you know, game at the moment. I wanted to have a lot of these parts for early Bally and Stern games in stock. This is my first Bally or Stern game that I've ever worked on, so I don't have a lot of these electrical components. So my order ended up being like $129, but probably only, you know, $60 or $70 of it is for this game. So we got that done. So now the next thing to do is going to be to unbox that MPU 100 CPU board, get a battery on board, lithium 2032 battery we're going to put on that. Let's get that done. And we need to burn the 2716 game ROMs, Stingray game ROMs, burn those on those chips. So let's head out to the workshop and do that next. All right, let's open up this box. As long as I got the right box here, what is inside here should be a Stern MPU 100 board that I got on eBay. I got this from a pretty well-known pinball circuit board repair guy that retired a few years ago. And I guess he was cleaning out his shop earlier this year and was selling off a bunch of boards. So I purchased this board. I think I won it for $29. With shipping, it came to like $41. So I have $41 invested in this board. Let's open it up. Hopefully there is actually a circuit board in this box, because I bought it back in, I don't know, a few months ago. Never opened it. Oh, there is a circuit board in here. And just for Jimbo here, I do not have a towel on my mat. I am working on a circuit board without a towel. I don't have an anti-static wrist thing available, but I at least took your advice and I'm not going to use a towel. Even though I was tempted to put a towel down first, I remembered you've been bugging me about that. So let's open this up. And see what we got. All right, so here's what we got. It's a Stern MPU 100 board that obviously had a onboard original lithium battery that leaked all over the board. So the corrosion's been removed and neutralized. The corrosion section here has been rebuilt. The 5101 has been replaced with a new chip socket. This 6821 also looks brand new. It's got all new header pins on the board, including the top. These sockets are already jumpered for 2716 ROM chips. It has the ground mod for the J4 pins 18 and 19 run into the ground trace. I thought I was going to have to do that, but it's already done. And down here, this is a memory capacitor in place of where the battery used to be. These work okay if you power your game on quite a bit. I don't power my game on quite a bit, so I'm going to change this to a CR 2032 style battery, which is this little round battery here. So I'm going to put a 2032 holder on this board. We're going to have to add a block-in diode to that. So I need to do that, and I need to burn the game ROMs for Stingray that go in U2 and U6. So to start, let's get this memory capacitor off the board so that we can work on getting the 2032 on there. But other than that, I am pretty happy with the board. It is very clean looking. The guy that does this board work does a very good job, so I'm sure we should be okay. So let's get going. All right, so I'm just looking to see how I gotta attack this to get this off. All right, got that off the board. I just got to get this double-sided tape off and clean this up a little bit. All right, so I have my 2032 battery holder. I got this from Big Daddy Enterprises when I was ordering a bunch of stuff from him. And I have a blocking diode. This is a 1N4004, but there's a bunch of different blocking diodes that you can use for this. And now I just have to figure out how I want to lay this out. All right, so I'm just going to do this basically the same way you had the memory capacitor in. I put a little piece of 3M double stick tape on the bottom. I'm going to put the positive side in one of the positive holes, and I'm going to solder this other side to the ground plane here. So let me stick, if I can get the protective coating off this double stick tape, we'll stick it to the board. Got a little flux on here. And I added a little shunt onto the pin there so I can solder this down to the ground plane good. And now I'm just going to take my continuity meter and make sure I have a good connection to ground on my ground tab there. And then the positive pin, I'm going to kind of fold it over onto the top of the board, onto the bottom of the board to kind of hold it in. And then we'll solder that on. All right, so I have the negative going to the ground plane. I have that on there, nice. Now the positive's not making a connection to anything yet. I actually have to bring a wire across to over here, which is where the resistor is that goes to the 5101. So we're going to use obviously we're going to use the blocking diode, so we need to get the blocking diode in there with the band going away from the battery, so the band's going to the 5101. All right, so I have my diode on there, and band going away from the battery. And now I'm going to take a jumper wire cut it to the right length and strip it and tin it. And I'm going to take my jumper wire and solder one end directly to the banded side of the diode, and the other side over to the resistor, heading to the 5101 chip. Alright, so now if we flip the board over, and I got my meter on continuity, and once again we're just going to check the ground. We're good there. And now on the positive side, we should have continuity to this resistor. Right here, it's and then we should have it on the other side, and then the top left pin of the 5101 should have the continuity, so that's good. So let's test it with a 2032 battery. Put my voltmeter on DC volts and get the battery in there. Alright, so a little closer up on my setup here. So here's the positive side of the battery holder. Here's my blocking diode. The band is pointing away from the battery. It's pointing towards the 5101. And then I have just a little jumper wire attached to that, and then I have this soldered to the tab that goes to that resistor. Now that resistor is R12. It is a 270 ohm resistor. You can take this resistor out and replace it with the blocking diode with the band facing up. That's one option. I didn't go with that option because let's say somebody gets this board and wants to go back to a rechargeable battery, then they just have to take out my little blocking diode jumper wire and they don't have to mess with desoldering from the board. But either option works. And then the negative here, like I said, I just have that I made a little shunt off the bottom of the battery holder, and I have that soldered directly to the ground plane. So that's all done. Now let's check the voltages. Alright, so I'm going to put my meter on DC volts. I have my 2032 battery in here. I'm going to take my negative, put it on the ground plane, and then let's just check the battery. I got 3.23 volts. And now we're going to go to the top leftmost pin on the 5101 chip. And we have 3.23 volts. So the battery is working to get that voltage over to the 5101. And we should be good to go with that battery setup. Alright, so now that we got the battery holder done, we need to burn some game ROMs. So I needed some 2716 chips because I didn't have any. So I went on eBay and got some from China. I got 10 for, I don't know, $7 or something. So hopefully they're good. They are all here. And we got our GQ-4x4 True USB Universal Programmer that I did a video on the unboxing, testing, and review of this burner. So check that out if you didn't see it. And we're going to take this stuff upstairs and see if we can burn U2 and U6 Stingray game ROMs for this game board. So let's head upstairs to the PC and get going. Alright, we're up here at the PC. I got the programmer plugged in. Going to open the programmer program. Alright, programmer's up and ready, so we need to load a device. So we go to device, it's an EPROM. The brand is ST. The chip is an M2716, so we select that. It tells me external power needed if write fail. Hopefully we won't have that problem. I'm plugged into a powered USB hub here, so we should be all right. It shows me the orientation of the chip in the programmer, so the little notch is up and the chip is all the way back in the programmer. Got that loaded, and we need to do a blank check to make sure this chip is actually blank. And chip is blank. We'll check it one more time. All right, chip is blank. So now we're going to go to the, you need to get the ROMs. So we go to the Internet Pinball database and type in Stingray, 1977 Stern Stingray. Scroll down here and game ROMs, 3 kilobyte zip file. So I downloaded them to my desktop and unzipped them. And in the folder we have a CPU U2 for a 2716 and a CPU U6 for a 2716. So I need to load that into the buffer. So I'll put U6 in the buffer. And so we have U6 in the buffer. We're all ready to write. Chip, we already blank checked it. Now we just click write. And now it's verifying to make sure what's on the chip matches the buffer. And it did verify. One more time, we'll verify that. All right, so that worked out good. Just going to burn U2 now, and then we'll make up some labels and put them on and put these chips into the board. So let's head back to the workshop. All right, so I made little labels for my chips here. So let's orient the chip the way it's supposed to go. I have U2 here. Trim up this label. Make sure it's going to fit okay. The purpose of the label is two purposes. One is to label the chip for what it is, and the other is to cover the little UV window here so that that is protected from ever seeing any UV light that could damage or partially erase the chip. So we will stick this on there. So now we have the U2 chip labeled, and I just got to do the same thing for the U6 chip. All right, so we got our chips labeled. I'm just going to get my little chip straightener here. So the legs are a little bit messed up. Just make sure they're all straight here so we don't have a problem getting these chips in. And then for good measure, I'm just going to take my fiberglass pen and make sure these pins are nice and shiny clean. Alright, so we're pretty happy with that. Now we just have to carefully get these chips into the board here. So we'll do U2 first. There's a little notch in the socket that matches the notch on the chip. And of course it doesn't want to go in very easy. Before we push it down, we want to make sure none of the legs are sticking out. Alright, there we go. U2 is in. Now U6, make sure the notches are lined up. One more time, we'll put it in our chip straightener since the other one didn't go in that easy. All right, and that's in. And checking to make sure all the legs look good. They look good. The chips are in there nice and tight. All the notches on all the chips are going the same direction. So we know we are good. So that is it. We should be good to go with this CPU. We won't know until we get the rest of the game electronically up and running. And then hope that everything is good on here. Got our battery holder on, got our ROMs in. So we'll put this back in the bag for now, and it'll be all ready to go when we need it. All right, so I got another package, a lamp driver board. These lamp driver boards are pretty cheap to buy nowadays because they're not really worth anything. Because everybody's going to the reproduction boards, either the All-Tech board or the NVRAM Weebly board, because they support LEDs without having to do any other modifications to the game. I'm not an LED guy, so it doesn't bother me that the game's not set up for LEDs. So I was able to get a lamp driver board. This is a Stern lamp driver board. It's the same exact one that's in my game. From the pictures, though, it looked like it had absolutely no corrosion on it. We're going to find out in just a second here. And I got this for $20 shipped. So $20 shipped is well worth saving all the time that it would have taken me to strip down that other board and get all the corrosion off and repopulate it. So here we go. This board looks beautiful. I don't see any, definitely no corrosion due to battery alkaline leakage. All the SCRs are bent over here. Man, this board is clean. I mean, clean, clean, clean. It has one SCR that's been replaced, and I'm not sure on that number. I need to check that number. But when I did the Great Plains order, I added to the order like 6 extra SCRs and then a couple of these smaller lamp driver transistors here. I see this one's been changed. But the solder job on them is really clean. So whoever replaced these did a great job. So the board is super clean. We're going to change these header pins because they are tarnished. No corrosion though. And everything, I mean, look at the green on the board is nice and crisp. There's no lifting anywhere. No signs of any corrosion on the ground traces. So for 20 bucks shipped, I'm super pumped up about this board. So we just need to check all the transistors on the board and then change these header pins once I get them from Great Plains. I don't have that order yet, so I'm not able to do them right now. But I think this is going to work out great. All right, so let's check some of these transistors. All right, so we're going to test these big SCRs, the 106 SCRs. So I'm using the pin repair guide that I always use when I'm repairing pinball machines. And we've got our meter on diode check, and I'm going to take the red and the black leads and touch the 2 outside legs. When I have the red on the left here and the black on the right, I should get about 1.4. And we got 1.3. And now I'm going to swap the meter. So I'm going to put the black leg on the left and the red on the right, and we should get 0.4 to 0.6. And I got 0.6. 0.6, swap the meter, should get about 1.4. Got 1.3. 1.3, swap the legs. I'm starting to get tangled here. And we should get 0.4 to 0.6. 0.6. 0.6, swap the legs. 1.3. All right, so I'm just going to go around and check the rest of these. Well, actually, now that we're here, let's check this one that's been changed. I got 1.1 and 0.6. Oh, and it is a 106, so that is the correct. They did put the correct SCR in there, so we'll probably leave that one. But I'm just going to go around and check the rest of these, and let me look up how to check these little ones here. All right, so these smaller ones are 2N 5060s, and you check these in a similar way. You're going to use the left leg and then the center leg, and one way you should have about 1.3 to 1.4, and the other way you should have 0.4 to 0.6. And we have 0.6, 0.6. The other way we should have 1.4-ish, and we do. 0.6. So far I've already checked 3, and we're good. And that's including a couple that have been changed. You can see that this one's been changed and this one up here has been changed. Let's check that while we're on video here. 1.3 that way, should have 0.4 to 0.6 the other way. All right, so that one checks out good too. So I'm just going to go around and check the rest of these SCRs. All right, so I checked every SCR on the board. There's quite a few of them with the meter, and they all passed the meter test. So that is a good sign, and I don't see any other issues with the board other than the header pins that are kind of tarnished. So we'll put this board off to the side until we get our Great Plains order. All right, so that at the end of all of these Stern Stingray restoration update videos, I'm going to be doing something a little bit different. I don't typically keep track of how much money I have invested in my restorations or how many man hours that I've put into them. Probably because I don't want to know. Even though I keep a tight budget on doing the games and I mainly don't replace parts unless I necessarily have to, I still don't like to keep track of what I have invested in the game. But I figured it would be fun for you guys to see a roll-in total of the costs as I go through the restoration process, and also how many man hours that I've invested into the game as I do the restoration. So at the end of the Stingray videos, we're going to go to my PC upstairs and I'll show you the spreadsheets that I'm keeping. 2 spreadsheets. One that'll be the roll-in total for the cost of all the parts that have gone into the restoration, plus the purchase price of the game. And the other spreadsheet will be how many man hours that I've put in. I'll keep track as I work on the game on how many hours that I've invested on each day, add them to the spreadsheet as I go, and at the end we'll have a total of how many man hours and how much cost that I've put into the game. So let's head up to the PC right now and I'll show you those spreadsheets. All right, so let's pull up these spreadsheets. We'll do the price list first. All right, so here's the 1977 Stern Stingray costs. We'll start at the top here. I purchased the game for $750. I got it at the Allentown Pinfest. I'm going to minus the Alltech Systems CPU board. It came with a brand new Alltech board for Bally and Stern, but it was powered up by the previous owner, so it's not so new anymore. So I'm going to call that $150. I'm pretty sure I could sell it for that if I wanted to sell it. I'm probably going to keep it for a spare test board, but we'll see. But I'm going to subtract $150, so that'll bring the purchase price of the game to $600. And then I purchased the used Stern MPU 100 board off of eBay for $40. I bought some 2716 EPROMs from eBay for $2 from China. The Great Plains order was $75. That should be all the electrical parts we need to rebuild the boards and repin all the connectors. I bought the NOS Stingray plastic set. I got that at Allentown for $30. And I just recently, like yesterday, got the Stern lamp driver board used off of eBay for $20. So, at the end of this video, which is part 1 of Stern Stingray restoration, we're at a grand total of $767 invested in this Stern Stingray so far. So now let's pull up the man hours one. I don't have a lot of man hours in it yet. So when I bought the game, when I got it home, and I did the video, if you haven't seen that, check that out, the video when I unloaded and set up the game for the first time. I spent 5 hours cleaning the outside of the cabinet with Magic Eraser and Mean Green, getting all the yellow off the cabinet. And I cleaned the inside of the cabinet to get the funk out of it. And did some minor repair stuff that was either broken or missing, and got all on the play field. Got all that stuff working. So that was 5 hours. And then in this video, we did some board work, adding the battery to the CPU and burning the ROMs, going over the lamp driver board, and a couple other things. I'm just going to call that an hour and a half. So we currently only have 6.5 man hours invested in the game. So that'll do it for this segment, which is the spreadsheets of the costs that we have into the game and the man hours we have into the game. All right, so that will do it for part number 1 of the 1977 Stern Stingray restoration update. I think we got a good start on the electronics, and I think by the end of part 2, we will have a fully operational game that we'll actually be able to play. Don't know when I'll get to that. Going to be working on the Stingray between working on the playfield of roller games. Got the rotisserie set up, got the garage cleaned out and reset up. Going to be working on the roller games this weekend. I'll be filming that. I hope to have that roller games, that'll be part number 7 of roller games. I hope to have that up next week. We'll see how it goes, see how much spare time I have. But the Stingray I'm real excited about. I love the artwork on that game. And I like that the cabinet has just the right amount of patina on it. I don't think we're going to have to do any repainting on that cabinet. My hope is that we're just able to clean up that artwork real good, buff out the cabinet. I try to do the minimalist amount of paint work that I have to do to get the cabinet, stable and looking good. But I don't like to do full repaints if it's not needed. I much prefer an original cabinet. And I think this is going to be a nice original cabinet that we're going to, fully restore all the parts. Of course, clear coat the playfield, do all the normal stuff that I do on my restorations. But really excited. I think that game's going to come out good. So I hope you enjoyed the episode. I hope you learned something maybe about working on Bally Stern electronics. There's more to come on this project. I want to thank you for watching My Vintage Pinball. Check out my Facebook page that I just started a couple weeks ago. Facebook, My Vintage Pinball, starring Pindude. I have a link to that down below. If you're not subscribed to my channel, please hit that subscribe button. Give this video a thumbs up. Feel free to leave a comment, suggestion, or whatever down below. That'll do it. I am Pindude from My Vintage Pinball. I will see you next time.